Hey folks, today we're talking about icy roads, freezing rain, and how to handle it. We'll cover how to safely de-ice your car and share some useful tips. Let's roll. While there's no bad weather in nature, freezing rain is a driver's nightmare. It coats everything, roads, cars, trees in ice. Everything's icy outside. So, at some point after work or early morning, you approach your car and see it's covered in ice. Lots of questions pop up. What to do, how to handle it, or another scenario. You're driving and freezing rain starts coating everything in ice right before your eyes. Naturally, many wonder if there's a way to prevent your car from icing over. Let's address this last question first. Can we prevent car icing? Absolutely. If we're keeping tabs on the weather, it's necessary to do so. These days, the Hydrometeorological Center can be inaccurate, but it still manages to give timely warnings and detections of freezing rain, which could happen within a few hours or sometimes over a day. If you have the chance to put your car in a garage or some kind of parking either above or underground, that would be ideal. If not, at least you can park it outside but under some sort of shelter to prevent precipitation from directly reaching the car. The best option, of course, is to treat the car with various chemicals and cover it with wax at a car wash. But practice shows that with normal icing during intense freezing rain, this doesn't really help. We can also mitigate the effects of freezing rain and recover from them more quickly by treating the door and trunk seals and lubricating the door locks and hinges with VD. Keep in mind, folks, it's best to store at home, not in your car. Various chemicals like de-icers, log de-icers, and a 5-liter bottle of antifreeze rated to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Store all this at home because when you're in a tough spot, the first problem is getting into your car. Is it worth having all these items in your car if you can't even get in? That's why these things can be kept at home. Either way, friends, we can wax the car. We can have all these items ready and do all the prep work. But if there's a heavy freezing rain, even for just 20-30 minutes, nothing will help. The car will still be covered in ice. So the question is, what should we do? You approach the car and see it's iced over. Check the ice thickness. If it's thin, no worries. You'll likely open the door easily. It's just 1 to 2 mm. But if it's 2, 3, 4, 5 mm thick, then you won't get in normally. Locks might open, but the handle may not budge if the ice is thick. I'd advise against doing anything to avoid damage. Check the forecast. Often it warms up after icing. Usually happens during sharp temperature changes. It'll likely melt on its own. If it's completely frozen, consider a tow truck. Take it somewhere warm, but not everyone can do that. Usually it's only 2 to 5 mm of ice max. So what can you do? First, walk around the car. Sometimes one side gets icy due to wind. Find the door with the least ice. You might be able to open it normally by pulling the handle. If stuck, pull and push the door. Tap around the rubber seals with a gloved fist. Don't use hard objects. Don't forget the trunk. I once had to use it to get in. You can open it with a key. To access the lock, we use various de-icers. There are different methods to thaw it out. Once you've opened the trunk, which might be remote controlled, you can get into the cabin. For SUVs, it's no problem at all. With sedans, you open the trunk and access the back of the rear seats. Here's a winter tip. Keep a seat slightly open for easy access. In case you need to get into the cabin through the trunk, that's another option. Well, accordingly, do not forget about auto start. If your car has such a function or an alarm of the auto start function is installed, then of course we use it. Start the car from auto start, and in 20 minutes approaching the car, we will already see that either the ice itself slides off the windows from the windshield, or this is already half melted. As soon as you get into the cabin, everything becomes easier. Of course, it will take a certain amount of time. You need to start the car, put the stove on 1, on 2. You don't need to do it all the way. That's it. And let it stand for 20-30 minutes. Warm up, turn on all kinds of heaters that you have in the rear window. If the package includes a windshield, side brushes, there are wipers, windshield wipers, injectors. Turn on the whole thing and wait. I do not advise scraping the car, spoiling the paintwork. Just wait 10, 15 minutes and the ice will begin to slide off by itself. When the temperature in the cabin is already 20 to 30 degrees, it will be all elementary. Now, on the screen, you see generally one way. When people open the window and there is a kind of second window, you just squeeze out this ice with your hand in this way, and so do all four windows. This is like a life hack for you. A few words about what I do not recommend doing, but from the point of view of common sense, you will also agree with this. This is to pour boiling water on the car to get into it, because ice is afraid of boiling water, yes, and many people pour it on it. Using chemicals or salts on your car can be risky. Ice is sensitive to this, but so is your vehicle. It's quite unpredictable. By the way, if it's +2, +3, or +4 outside, I'd advise doing nothing. Just wait a few hours and it'll melt on its own. One key tip, folks: if freezing rain or car icing catches you before a trip, you'll likely always be. Look, I'd advise skipping the trip entirely. When it comes to driving in freezing rain or walking on pure ice, I always use this example. Imagine you're at an ice rink in regular shoes. Winter or summer doesn't matter. You need to make a sharp move, but you'll fall. You'll keep sliding in that direction. Even as you fall, you might try to turn your left foot right, but it won't help. From a physics standpoint, you'll be like a mass in motion, continuing to move in a specific direction due to inertia. It's the same with a car. If it starts sliding down an icy hill, whether it's an SUV or has all-wheel drive, any vehicle will be helpless. You can't get traction. There's no way. Our tires don't have special grips for this. Nothing can be done, no matter how experienced the driver. You're just along for the ride until you crash with a sickening crunch. That's the key point here. As I mentioned earlier, if you're driving and, God forbid, you hit someone on a slope or road due to black ice or freezing rain, people tend to stay in their cars and do nothing. They wait for a second impact, because if there's a pileup with cars crashing into each other, it's a horrific scene. I don't mean to scare you, and I hope you never witness it, let alone be part of it. But you need to understand that in a mass collision, if you rear-end someone, you're likely to get rear-ended too. So always check your mirrors and be aware of the situation. Of course, friends, to avoid being part of any pileups or accidents, I advise you to completely refrain from traveling. Regardless of your experience, you could be the world's best, most professional driver. But I'll say it again: if your car slides down an icy hill, there's nothing you can do. So it's better to avoid this. No matter how much you're rushing, nothing's worth risking your safety. If you crash, remember, it's not just about you. You can be confident in yourself, you'll do everything right, but someone might still hit you. Even a small accident, you'll have to deal with it. If you're in a situation where you have no choice or decide to drive anyway, and you've gotten into your car and warmed it up well, make sure you have a clear view. Check your wheels. They might be frozen due to rain runoff, especially at the bottom of the car. The thickest ice forms on the lower part of the doors, so check if your wheels are frozen. If they're slightly stuck, try moving forward and back gently. If that works, you're good to go. If needed, pour some de-icer on the clutch and gearbox. If the car's really frozen to the ground, I wouldn't advise forcing it. When driving, be extra cautious. Friends, go slow and steady. Stay alert. No sudden brakes, gas, or turns. Keep it smooth. Imagine walking on ice barefoot. Any abrupt move could be dangerous. We can't stop quickly. What else? Double or triple your following distance. At least keep half your speed in meters. Going 40, stay 20 m back. 50, 25 m back. That's twice the usual gap. At 10 kilometers per h, keep 10 m. At 50, keep 50 m. This is for pure ice. When it's freezing rain and everything's iced over, absolutely avoid stopping if possible. Right next to the road, especially on turns and in low areas, you shouldn't park your cars. On curves in low areas where cars might slide due to momentum, think about this. If a car skids on a turn, it'll go where inertia takes it. Turn left, it slides right. Turn right, it slides left. So wherever it might slide, hypothetically, we can visualize this scenario. Never stop or park there. Avoid these spots entirely. Listen up, folks. Avoid hills at all costs. If you start going downhill, even in first gear with all-wheel drive, low gear, and great tires, you're in trouble. If the car slides even a bit, it's game over. It'll just keep moving by inertia and nothing will help. So I'm saying avoid this area completely. Don't go out if you can help it. But if you absolutely must, well, though I can't imagine a situation where there's truly no choice. There's usually always a choice. Always. Avoid the mountains, just avoid them. I haven't told you why yet. If you still decide to stay put, which would be the best option, I advise getting to your workplace destination. You are planning to go somewhere, right? But don't take a taxi or go with someone else, like a friend or girlfriend in a car. That's just as dangerous as driving yourself. For me, it'd be twice as risky. I know my own actions. I know what I understand. I know my limits. So it's best to use the subway if available or take a tram or train. That's the safest option in this weather. At least use a large vehicle like a bus or trolleybus. I don't recommend driving cars in these conditions, whether you're behind the wheel or in the passenger seat. It makes no difference if you're not driving. You're still at risk of accidents or trouble. Folks, consider the time it'll take if you decide to revive your car. Getting in, melting ice, or even prying open a frozen door can take ages. You should know it might be 30, 40 minutes, sometimes an hour. Ask yourself if you've got that time. To avoid damaging your car, don't start chipping away at the ice with scrapers or hammers. Just leave it be, close it up, and head to work. Go on foot. Your car will be safer, and so will you. Here's another tip if you're in a car. You've got your main view cleared, but we can't always defrost the roof instantly. Sometimes with thick ice, you need to let the car run for hours to warm up. Even then, if it's freezing outside, it might not help. To remove ice, well, once you're in the car with defrosted windows and headlights, you can move slowly. As you drive, the car's body flexes, sometimes helping the ice come off. The best option, if it's below freezing and you want to defrost, though it's not ideal or very safe to drive like this, is to use a warm garage. You could park in a heated lot overnight, though I'm not sure about the cost, or use someone's garage if possible. Alternatively, visit a car wash where they'll pressure wash the ice off. So, friends, that's how things are, but the most important takeaway is this: monitor the weather. Winter is a critical time for drivers with snowfall, ice, and freezing rain. If the forecast warns of these conditions, err on the side of caution. If possible, park your car under a covered area to prevent icing overnight. It may not always be an option, but when you have a choice, even a simple canopy can make a big difference in keeping your vehicle ice-free and ready to go. The most optimal approach is to plan ahead. Otherwise, you'll be stuck thinking, oh man, how do I get into my car and free it from this icy prison? If possible, leave your car somewhere safe when freezing rain is forecast. The weather service warned us, but we've got no covered parking, no carport, no garage, nothing at all. There aren't even trees to park under. Here's a life hack. You can cover parts of your car with fabric. For example, use a tarp for the hood and a blanket for the rest. The roof, the trunk here, not all at once, because with a thick layer of snow, lifting and tearing it all off later will be quite problematic when it's in parts. The hood separately, the roof separately, yes, the trunk separately. The main thing is to get into the car. Start it anyway if you follow this advice. And I don't recommend trying to tear the fabric off the car right away. Slowly, ideally with someone's help. Just lift the ice off from the corners. Hey folks, I'd love if you could share some tips and life hacks in the comments. I might not know everything, could miss something or forget stuff. I'm only human, not a know-it-all. So please write your ideas to make this video super helpful for newbies and all drivers. I'll ask you to share this video with friends and family so they can benefit from these tips, and by doing so, you might just help them out if they ever find themselves in a tricky situation. Knowledge is power, after all. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. There's lots more useful info coming. As always, I wish you all safe travels and happy driving. Catch you later.